taxpayers here, and our job is really to be skeptical of city spending and somewhat frugal in our attitudes. Did you vote the same as others?
I know in my case, I voted my heart, and for instance, the county agent's office was very grateful to have anybody vote, because most people don't even know the county agent is involved with the city budget. They don't know that there is a very small stipend, because most of the money comes through the old original federal grants that set up the county agent's office around the United States, and then it's administered through the University of Florida. So it was thinking enlightening to most people that they were even present there, you know.
My personal experience is I was kind of the odd man out on a lot of these, because I'm vice chairman of the Libertarian Party, so I take a much more libertarian, limited government perspective. And so I found that a lot of the people that were there were, were supporters of the, strong supporters of the government, especially like on the, when I was in the public library. These were, I think one of the people was on the actual library board. There's others that were strong supporters of the library, and I was kind of the odd man out when I was much more, maybe a lot of this stuff should be done more by the private sector. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of other comments came up with, I think some people even saw, the internet access as sort of a way to even out all the income disparities, the kind of, that people who are poor, they get internet access. Mm-hmm. There was also at the Jacksonville Children's Commission group, I actually had somebody walk up to me after the discussion and sit there and say, don't you realize that the government is responsible for the children? Mm-hmm. Which I thought was interesting. Yeah. And even like with the one that was concerned the JDC, I even had a representative of the Chamber of Commerce who was probably, when I was speaking out against the JDC, he was probably one of the biggest supporters on that, of what the JDC did. Yes. This kind of gives you an idea that maybe the Chamber of Commerce you always associate with being anti-government. In this case, they were quite pro-government when it came to the JDC.
I think so. And now, the JCCI, they recognize that their participants are not necessarily representative of the population. In some cases, it was closer in some indices, but in terms of education and income, there was kind of a disparity. You had about 30% of the participants with an income over $100,000. Now that tells me there were a lot of maybe city employees or people who are on government payroll participating in the study. You mentioned a couple of individuals. But do you think that was the case generally?
Well, I think probably, knowing the way these things administered by JCCI and the city go, it's the people who are really concerned and care, the people who pay attention to their tax dollar, et cetera, is the reason why you get those kind of weighted numbers as far as who shows up. Yeah, yeah. Because the average person, the average member of the plebiscite electorate is not going to be concerned. They're not going to bother. Right.
And this is, I mean, this is a built-in limitation of people studies. You can't just grab people and say, okay, you are typical, we need you from this particular category to be part of the study, so you're going to be in it. But people show up voluntarily, and I think that's the only way they can do it.
Skip Kramer, who administers the JCCI programs over there, the entire format, is a real, a very well organized person to do this. As far as their part of this, I don't think it could be done any better as far as a way of trying to draw as many people as possible across the demographics into it, but it's just difficult.
I'm sure. I'm pretty sure of that, yeah. So,
but the JCSCI study made it clear that this, that the sample is self-selected. So basically, whoever shows up, whether they're representative of the population of Jacksonville, is going to be the ones who make the decision. So, I mean, what they did is they got more people involved in the budget process. Whether that involvement really represented the people of Jacksonville was a different question. But at least they got more people involved.
But Skip really does energize the group. He's a great, I want to say go-getter. That's not really right. He's a retired naval captain, retired commander, and retired commander of NAS, as a matter of fact. But he does a good job of building a spirit of goodwill, I guess, and cooperation to get people to open up and participate. I guess that would be the best way to put it.
Cool. And they did have a survey at the end on what your experience was like. How did you all rate the experience overall?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a very good discussion. I mean, it's very well managed. Mm-hmm. So I actually thought it was managed very well.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so you all arrive to one location, and then you hear the mayor's speech.
Right.
And the mayor's comparing our spending to other spending in other counties.
Yeah.
And of course, these are selected facts.
Right.
And so there's some mention of the mayor's speech going kind of long. Did you get that impression, or not?
It can be quite a dog and pony show.
And were you able to ask the mayor any questions, or will follow-up of any kind of interaction with the mayor?
No.
I think that was a criticism of all of them, that part was like denied or just not there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, there was no questioning of the mayor. He just essentially gave his speech, but I think more emphasis, at least the ones I went to, seemed to be more into getting into the discussions on the various tables. That was the emphasis.
But the mayor was there for all of the meetings? For
Yes.
all of the workshops?
The ones I went to.
Okay.
But they jumped from his big intro thing to the scattered groups and the wanting the positive input into their existing programs was about the way it amounted.
And the groups were maybe from about 10 to 2. And how many groups typically were there?
I don't remember. I think it was about 8 or 9. I think it's
All major city departments were, because like the table I was at was Parks and Recreation, the county agent, and the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
All of I had to do. I guess it was things that they felt like had to do with the anything to do with recreation and entertainment.
Yeah.
And the same thing with fire and rescue. The same thing with the sheriff's office.
Okay, it says here there was 11 tables.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, right. And apparently they were supposed to be for the departments that actually provide services out to the people in Jacksonville, rather than the ones that support those departments.
Major departments.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a group leader for each group?
Each table had because Kevin Holzendorf of the city IT department was the PR man, I guess you'd call him, for our table.
He's going to promote the city's
and Mr.
policies.
Sweat, who is the top man over at the agricultural department that I didn't even know he existed. I've been dealing with their Master Naturalist program for some time. I'd never even heard his name before. When normally you deal with the county agent, who's Brad Burball, and I didn't even know that this guy was actually the top dog over there, apparently. Mm-hmm. You never hear his name.
Mr. Sweat.
Mr. Sweat, yeah. And Miss Borey from the Recreation Department.
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me. So this is about learning about government, too, which many people claim to have done, is to learn something about the government. And I think that's a positive outcome. Okay, so you have a group and you have some boards with specifics on them. And what about discussion? Was there much give and take in a kind of a discussion way in those tables?
The one I went to, the first one, my biggest criticism was you couldn't hear yourself think It was like being in this booming room of just total chaos. It was like bedlam.